A hail of bullets tears through the jungle dawn as Mexican army troops clash with a ragtag group of masked indigenous fighters. Sweat dripped down your face. Echoes of gunfire reverberate through the trees. And amidst the haze of battle, a pipe-smoking man in a black balaclava stepped forward, giving voice to the voiceless. This was January 1st, 1994, the moment when the Zapatista Army of National Liberation, led by Subcomandante Marcos, seized several towns in Chiapas and shocked the world. The government claimed to outnumber them by the thousand. The Zapatistas numbered maybe 3,000 campesinos and support bases, but they held their grounds and forced a ceasefire within 12 days. The battle wasn't just military, it was symbolic, a decoration. This rebellion, born in the Lacandan jungle, was here to stay. What drove a former philosophy professor from Tampico to risk it all in a fight no one expected him to win? And how did Marcos redefine the odds? Not just for Chiapas, but for the movement worldwide. Let's dive into the story. First though, where did Marcos even come from? And how did a quiet kid become a mass revolutionary? Born Rafael Sebastian Guillen Vicente on June 19, 1957 in Tampico, fourth of 8 children in a local middle-class family. You grew up amidst furniture stores and bookshelves. Your parents, both educators, fostered a love of reading and language. As a Jesuit school teen, you admired Che Guevara and absorbed liberation theology. More duties towards the oppressed. At UNAM, you studied philosophy during the rise of Althusser's Marxism. You taught at UAM, cautious of a life entangled in academia. But in 1984, you dropped out and moved to Chiapas, drawn not by theory, but by solidarity. You sat amongst Mayan villagers, listening to stories of land seized, hunger, and exclusion. Their struggle reshaped your identity. Those who came to save the indigenous communities were saved by them. You later wrote, that deep empathy planted the roots of Subcomandante Marcos, a rebel who spoke in the voice of the oppressed. By the late 1980s, you have joined the EZLN, initially part of the FLN, Chiapas Arm, a self-defense unit protecting Mayan communities from eviction. Though not Mayan yourself, you immerse in their language and rituals, earning trust as a translator and mediator. You begin writing manifestos that blend myth, humor, and urgency. One early communique declared, Chiapas has bled through thousands of veins, through oil ducts and gas. By January 1st, 1994, you have become the public face of the uprising. When insurgents seize San Cristobal de las Casas, you step in, lead interviews and journalists, spending nearly 12 hours fielding questions in English to represent your people to the world. In your words, we are sorry for the inconvenience, but this is a revolution. And with that simple poetic line, the world took note. The Mexican government responded relentlessly, sending 30,000 to 40,000 troops to Chiapas, while EZLN numbered probably 3,000 armed with rifles and resolve. During fierce jungle skirmishes, the rebels fought house to house in San Cristobal and Altamirano. Bodies piled up, bullets casting shattered like rain. Indigenous families sheltered in cellars, clutching machetes. But amidst that inferno, you wrote commutes laced with metaphors and defiance. In the end, the woman can be very rebellious, but if she depends on a man economically, she had few possibilities. You wield words like weapons. Ideas are also weapons. Those were transmitted globally via early internet connections and solidarity groups like Acción Zapatistas and Zapnet. The world read your message while the cable news churned away. International outrage rose when press and activists amplify your call. We have been denied the most elemental preparation so they can use us as cannon foders. Within 12 days, the government declared a ceasefire, unable to crush the narrative. In the uprising paused, but this pause was just another beginning. But as international interest grew, so did government intent. In February 1995, President Zedillo publicly outed Subcomandante Marcos as you. Rafael Guillen, born 1957, former UNAM professor. The state declared you a terrorist, issued arrest warrant, and ordered helicopter assault on Zapatistas camp. You sent a thirst message back, see you in hell, not as swagger, but a warning that killing you would spark worse upheaval. Meanwhile, your high school friend Max Apadol intervened using linguistic forensics to prove to officials that Marcos heard in your writing was your peace intent, not violence. That act helped reverse plans for a military assault. The state backed off. Secret talks began between your movement and government envoy. Still, the crisis forced you into survival mode, guerrilla routes, secret diplomacy, and political theater. Negotiation dragged 1996 with mediation by National Congress Group. The San Andreas Accords were signed in February 1996, promising constitutional recognition of indigenous rights and autonomy. Although the law were later watered down, the moment marked a strategic shift. The EZLN formally paused armed conflict and instead adopted civil resistance, sit-in, marches, road blockades, and mass organizing through the Other campaign and other initiatives. You traveled nationwide in 2006, speaking to the crowds, building alliances across Mexico. No guns, just words, poetry, and solidarity. Crowds chanted, "We are all Marcos." In one speech you said, "We are all nothing if we walk alone. We are everything when we walk together in steps with other dignity feet." You brought attention to forgotten indigenous women, children, and smallholders, turning landless murmurs into a war of demand for justice. The weapon changed from guns to rallies, votes, and words. Over time, you gradually remove yourself from the spotlight. Starting in May 2014, you took the name Subcomandante Insurgente Galeano, honoring a fallen comrade. By October 2023, you adopted the new title Captain Insurgente Marcos, a clear signal. You were no longer the spokesperson, just part of the collective indigenous-led command. By the 30th anniversary of the uprising in January 2024, you appeared again in the mountains, but remained silent, letting others speak. The Bella Chava still stirred recognition, but your words had shifted from public manifesto to quiet writings in the jungle, dispatches, reflections, essays that keep inspiring solidarity across Latin America and beyond. Today, Zapatistas, autonomous municipalities govern tens of thousands in Chiapas. International gatherings, especially of indigenous women, have drawn delegates from dozens of countries. Your literary style, sharp, poetic, yet rooted in collective struggle, has influenced activists, academics, and writers globally. Deep into the highland of Chiapas, Zapatistas, municipalities now administer schools, health clinics, local courts, space free from state control. The movement, especially women, led cornerstones of economics, cooperatives, and cultural revival. Marcos emphasized this synergy. Those who came to save were saved by them. Your words pointing to the heart of indigenous communities as engine of change. Your literal styles, mythic, witty, humbled, reshape how activists write. Your communic reference Mayan myth to reframe revolution as decolonial storytelling, rooting politics in ancestral memories. You didn't just demand rights, you elevated indigenous epistemologies as foundational for justice in the present-day national state. Subcomandante Marcos' bravery and leadership helped the indigenous people get rights that they didn't have before. Man, what a brave soul. From philosophy student to mask-clad guerrilla, you mapped ambition. You provide a quiet academic could outrank tanks, not by firepower, but by empathetic storytelling and deep cultural solidarity. You turn insurgency into literature, revolution into narrative. Even when you shed the persona of Marcos, the movement endured and even thrived under collective leadership. Today, Zapatistas' voices fill schools, councils, and global activist forums. Your legacy is not a monument, it is a living structure built by indigenous minds and hands. You show that the power of the people is stronger than the power in people. And wherever communities reclaim dignity, anywhere they say enough, that echo is yours. Subcomandante Marcos might no longer speak, but the ideas, the mass, the dreams live on, and those who struggle, write, and resist.